Joining me now to discuss the scientific, academic, and real-life importance of arts education in the classroom are Dr. James Catterall, Professor Emeritus at the UCLA Graduate School of Education and Information Studies and founder at the Centers for Research on Creativity. Suzanne Gindin, Doctor of Music and Conducting and founding director of the Boyle Heights Community Youth Orchestra. And Bob Bates, the founder and artistic director of Inner City Arts, an art space serving at-risk children on LA's Skid Row since 1989. And I want to welcome all of you to Full Frame. Thank you. Doctor, why don't I start with you? Why is it so important?
Why arts education is so important?
For these kids.
Well, myself and some colleagues who study art and child development notice that a lot of other things go on for kids when they get involved in music.
Talk to me about that. What do you see? I mean,
well, let's start with the idea that any stimulus, anything related to the arts and most anything else impacts the brain. And when the brain is impacted, in a way, it's never the same again. And so the brain grows with experiences and musical experiences among them. So when the brain hears a musical sound or a composition, it makes note of it, remembers part of it, it feels part of it. It's an emotional experience as well as an auditory experience. And if a child hears the same thing again, even a long time later, the child will know it in a way that they didn't know it the first time. And so the brain organizes itself around experiences, remembers them, sets itself up in a way because of them, and then recognizes things it wouldn't if it hadn't heard that before.
But as far as what the doctor was saying about the organization piece of it, I asked some of the parents of my kids, you know, what have you seen in your children since they've been in the orchestra? And one of the moms directly used that word. My child is more organized. Her life is more organized. She can organize her homework. She can organize herself. She can work independently in a way that she could not before she started studying with us.
Wow, that's great. And Bob, you see it too.
Well, I mean, if you think about that, I'm thinking of a group of kids coming in for the first time doing a painting on canvas. They are, if it's a still life setup, for example, they are mixing colors. They have to make choices in there, make decisions in there. They make marks on the canvas. Those marks inform them of, like, this is going well or this is not going so well. So they're dealing with their emotions, with the fear of failure. Ooh, I don't like this. Ooh, I really like this. I'm afraid to put another color down and ruin it. So this very silent kind of dialogue is going on all the time. And in the process, they're really developing their creative voice. Their imagination and their creativity is just flowing through that experience. And the more you put them in that experience, you're learning by doing, the more they learn, the more they grow. It's just like what James was talking about in terms of the sounds, hearing something over before. Oh, I've done this kind of drawing before, and oh, I feel more familiar now doing this.
Speaking of building the kids, let's listen to a couple of yours, and then I want to get your reaction, Suzanne.
Okay. Before I started with the orchestra a year and a half ago, I had really low grades. My mom found out about the orchestra. She put me in because she thought it would be better for my grades, and she was right. Now that I'm advanced, I get to go to a better school.
We're learning like math because it says 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Like 1, 2, 2.
It's not even what they say, and I know you see this. It's the expressions on their face. And this is, and the one girl touched on this, it does level the playing field for these students in a respect, in terms of grades and learning and all of that. Can you talk to that?
Yes, well, unfortunately, there have been so many cuts in the public schools in Los Angeles that I think the number is 76% of the arts programs have been cut in the last 6 years. And who that's really affected is the elementary students. And unfortunately, those are the ones who really need it, because that's when they're still open to these experiences and they're still excited about everything, and yet they're sort of stuck in that school sort of fear, I don't know if I should say something, instead of being allowed to express themselves at this level. And I think what Mabel is speaking to right there, my budding cellist, is that this is a place where she was able to make these decisions and organize her time and make these choices and experience success, and therefore, oh, I can do this. And all of a sudden, I am a successful person, and I am a powerful person. And when you think of how little control kids do have at that age in their day, you know, they're being told when to use a bathroom, when to get a drink, everything. And then finally you give them a place for an hour or two where they can make all these choices and own that experience and have it be something that actually feeds their heart as well. I think that is what you saw in Mabel's eyes, you know.
You're mentioning she's a budding cellist. I spoke to one that was a budding cellist as a 7-year-old who went on to become Yo-Yo Ma. But, but his parents knew classical music, performed classical music. For some of these kids, they've never even heard it before, have they?
Right, right. I honestly don't know what brought the parents to my door that very first day that we opened. I think that they saw the flyer and said, this is something that's going to help my kid. And that's what they want. If this gives my kid a step up, I'm for it. And they brought their kids. And I think I could have been teaching, you know, folk song or, you know, anything. I think the fact that it's classical music is a platform for them to, that's what levels the playing field to me, is the classical music aspect of it. Because so many other kinds of musics are culturally based and, you know, within a certain people's, and classical music has truly become global when you see that the countries that have appropriated it for their own, it speaks to everyone, I think.
Let me ask one final question. How transferable is this? If I'm watching this in another country and I'm fascinated and excited, what are some tenets that you can just pass along briefly, and I'll start with you, Bob, to somebody who may be watching this and saying, hey, I want to connect to some kids who maybe are struggling, who have all these issues that they have to deal with. I want to take them out of that environment, put them into this creative environment, and let them just blossom.
Put them in safe, creative environments where they have lots of basic materials like pencils and colors and paper and all kinds of things to work with, and allow them to explore and to express their feelings and encourage their growth and exploration. And it's not about like taking and, okay, this is what I want you to make today, and oh, yours doesn't look like this, so yours is not as good, or yours is better. All those kind of things. Put them in a non-judgmental kind of place where they have the kids have the opportunity to really be acknowledged for who they are, and to say, you know, who you are and what you're doing, you're learning and you're growing, and maybe one day you'll be a great artist. Maybe one day you'll be a teacher or an auto mechanic or a scientist or a spaceman. Who knows? But put them in situations where they can make and solve problems with creative materials. It's just it's unbelievably powerful. Paper and pencil. If you got nothing but paper and pencil, feed them all the paper and pencils you possibly can.
Well, and I'll feed you the lines, cello and bow too, right? Your turn.
Fortunately, our orchestra is associated with a global movement called El Sistema Global. And it stems from Venezuela through the tradition of the government actually supporting music to such an extent that it pays for, I think there's 500,000 to 1 million kids now that have had this orchestral training, and now there's programs in Scotland, Japan, Korea, Spain. I mean, it's everywhere now. It's free, the parents are involved, and the kids have access to this absolutely beautiful, joyful experience. And I think that I'm always interested to talk to people from other art forms, but something that music does for kids is it has to be perfect. You're not going to go to a concert where 10% of the notes are wrong. And I think asking a kid from any background, socioeconomic background, that's where the playing field is leveled. Because it doesn't matter how much your dad makes or how little your mom makes, you have to play it correctly. And I think that bringing that bar up high and saying, and I take my kids to the Hollywood Bowl and I say, you're going to be on that stage in 5 years. And they say, sure, I'm going to be there.
Wow.
And that's what we're doing.
You're as strict as my music teacher was. Wrong note, you're out of here.
James, you get the final word
Can I
on
add-
this.
I just want to
Okay.
one thing on that. The idea, I think an important thing to tell everybody is that mistakes are just simply a part of the creative process, because
Yeah.
on the other side of every single mistake is a new idea. What am I going to do now? This didn't work, what am I going to do
Yeah,
now?
how am I going to solve that problem? Yeah,
Which helps you
exactly.
throughout life,
Oh, yeah.
solving
in
problems.
in everything, especially in today's creative, we need another Steve Jobs, we need more Bill Gates, we need these people with these creative minds.
And often you don't know if it's a mistake until you make it. And so
That's true too.
making a mistake can teach you what's wrong or what not to do and where to go next. So it's all part of the process.
Thank you all three. It's been great fun. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for saying we don't need another Mike Walter, because we don't.